It's a weekend of returns in La Liga. The word morbo is one that's used a lot in the description of football matches and re-encounters in Spanish football. Morbo, I don't think we really have a direct equivalent in English. It's not morbid, but it's when there's an extra layer of anticipation for something good or bad. When an old hero comes back to his or her club as a rival, or when an ugly battle where two teams or two managers or two footballers have an edge to their rivalry, a dislike for each other. There's morbo. When one team robbed the other the last time, then when the fixture is replayed the following season, morbo. Is there morbo about the first return? I think there probably is. It's Xabi Alonso as coach of league leaders Real Madrid returning home. Although he's lived all around the world, he is a Basque man. The team with which he became a dominant footballer was Real Sociedad, Juriordin, the blue and white is what that means in the Basque language. And it's a club where, once he'd finished his playing career, he took his second coaching position. Initially, he was coach of the Infantil A, that's the under-14s at Real Madrid, when he'd finished his playing career with, I think he hung up his boots with Bayern Munich. He did well there, had a very dominant season with the Infantil A at Real Madrid, then went back to coach the B team, the head of the youth system, which is called Sanse, at Real Sociedad. And in his first of two seasons, he won promotion. It looked like a legendary footballer was transferring his talents, his will to win, his tactical brain to the dugout compared to the middle of midfield. And yet, in that second season, what happened in the first team above him was Imanol Alguacil, another playing legend at La Real, and somebody who won the cup as coach for the team he loves just as much, if not more, than Xabi Alonso. Imanol Alguacil was renewed. He'd finished fifth in the league. His contract was renewed. Xabi Alonso took a look at it and went, that first team job isn't going to be for me. I must move on. So after 2 seasons, he did move on. He's been back as a coach to Anoeta Reale Arena, if you really want. Only once, which was in July 2023 in front of a 17,000 crowd, when he took Bayer Leverkusen before he'd coached a competitive match for the German side, which he would eventually make Bundesliga champions and cup winners. He took them back there in a very, very early stage. I think maybe his second match, maybe his first. It was a friendly. They lost 1-0 to a goal from Brais Mendes, who over the last season and a half has not given the guidance and magic and brilliance that he's capable of, really since the end of La Real's Champions League challenge against Paris Saint-Germain the season before last. Have we seen, or has the club been given the cleverness, the left-footed technique, goals, assists, dead ball taking that Brais Mendes most definitely has up his sleeve? He should start tomorrow. It was his winner the last time Xabi Alonso went home, and yet there doesn't seem to be enough in Real Sociedad's side for my taste. Oscarson is out. Do we really care? Very juvenile player in attitude, in body language, in contribution. Yangel Herrera should make a difference, but he won't play until at least mid-October because of a hamstring injury, signed from Girona in the midst of an injury. Very odd business indeed. That's a risk not many clubs are willing to take. Carlos Soler should be on the bench, and the other day Pete Jensen and I were mentioning that 5 years ago in November, it was his hat-trick of penalties for Valencia, which led to a Valencia 4-1 win over Real Madrid. Those protagonists, Brais Mendes, Carlos Soler, I don't see being enough for the league leaders not to give Xabi Alonso 3 very welcome points to restart his league campaign having been unbeaten, 100% victories in the 3 matches before the international break. Homecoming, I predict a happy homecoming. The second homecoming is more discreet, but potentially important in that Thiago Alcantara, my former neighbour, the kid who I leaned over my balcony and yelled abuse at because him and his brother Rafinha and 2 mates were jumping in the community swimming pool at the bottom of our flat, and they'd woken up my youngest daughter, and I leant out and gave them fucking what for. We got over that. I saw him as recently as the aftermath of the Legends match, which preceded the Champions League final in Munich, and what nick he was in for a retired, mid-30s ex-footballer. The nick he was in was extraordinary. Why is his return important? He had been initially part of Hansi Flick's initiation as Barcelona coach. He'd been an important bridge between Spanish speakers, Catalan speakers, younger footballers, and the German coach. Thiago had business and contractual things to sort out, so he left about not quite a third of the way through last season, has sorted his remaining details, the snagging that he had to do in his life, out, and he's back. It's not just sentimental, it's not just morbid about him returning to the club where he won the Champions League with Barcelona at Wembley in 2011. What's important is that there is a lack of feeling. The unity of the group at Barcelona is not as good as it was last season. Examples being the way Flick and the club treated Marc-Andre ter Stegen, and the pushback this got from several players who said Marc-Andre ter Stegen's still our captain, he's a respected man. They didn't like the way that the club shat on ter Stegen. There was fault on both sides, but it caused an erosion of spirit, an erosion of trust. Not terminal, but important. Then there's the fact that for whatever reason, and it's partly to do with 2 crunching tackles in 2 separate training sessions this summer, there's been bad feeling between Fermin and Gavi, previously inseparable friends. We get told all the time by ex-pros and ex-coaches, training ground clashes are meat and drink, they happen all the time. But usually, I would say, in the majority of cases, they get fixed, they get sorted out. Often they can even bring stronger friendships. So far with Gavi and Fermin, that hasn't been the case. There has been a lackadaisical nature to Barcelona's hunger and aggressive competitiveness and fluency in their first 3 games. Thiago coming back and being able to be the coach's representative in off-the-record situations, one-on-one coaching with players, all of whom have to have the highest respect for him, serial winner at Bayern Munich as well. Thiago's return could be a balm, could be exactly the medicine that the slightly frayed situation between Flick and his squad really needs. The final really big comeback, as Pete Wiley would sing, the return home, is Aymeric Laporte. For a variety of reasons, Laporte hasn't played since April, most of which are injuries, but he desperately wanted to come home. He let Athletic Club know that they were able to get him, that his salary was affordable, and his club Al Nassr in Saudi Arabia first of all resisted it, finally got knocked out of enough tournaments that they said, right, you can go, but they fucked up their transfer deadline work. They were slow in playing ball. I don't know if it was deliberate or nasty or complacent or just stupid, but they didn't play their part. And normally that means if you don't get it over the line, you're screwed, goodbye, no deal. But in this instance, Athletic and Aymeric Laporte individually took the case to FIFA's dispute resolution, and although it took time, FIFA said we can clearly see in our transfer management system that Athletic did all of their part correctly, that Al Nassr were completely in agreement, but Al Nassr failed to use the system properly, and that's the only reason the deal didn't go through. Their judgment is that Laporte and Athletic shouldn't be prejudiced against simply because the other half of the dancing partnership had clogs on their feet and, 2 left feet. So Laporte, that means, is now confirmed as an athletic player for the next 3 seasons guaranteed, age 31 now, just at the time when Uriel Alvarez has been told that his ban for using a prohibited substance and testing positive for that will run until April. Athletic were down to 2 first-choice senior centre-halves, and we're going to either have to promote from the Egaled, one of their promising youths is out now for many, many months because of knee ligament injuries, and therefore they were either going to have to promote again from the Cantera, or they were going to have to redeploy footballers who didn't normally play at centre-half to that position. Now, Laporte won't play very soon, I don't think, because he's been out since April. There's a special programme of fitness and conditioning needed to get him in shape. But as well as it being absolutely brilliant news for Athletic at a time when they've lost Nico Williams for the opening of their Champions League campaign, it means that there's more solidity in that position for Ernesto Valverde. And what it means for Luis de la Fuente is that there is the potential that one of his key footballers, a centre-half who played in 5 of the, no 5, I say 5, is it 5? 3 group games, 16 quarter, so 6 of the 7 games Spain needed to win the European Championship. Laporte was titular, their starting centre-back. They need him back, and if suddenly Spain are going to be able to count on fully fit, informed Dani Carvajal at right back, Rodrigo at centre midfield, and Laporte with one of the now range of options, Cubarsí, Danny Vivian, Housen, who's first choice at the moment, and or Robin Lenormand, Spain looks suddenly much more solid with many more resources via which to think about the Finalissimo, the Super World Cup final between World Cup holders and European champions Argentina and Spain, which is likely to take place in March, and then onwards to the United States, Canada, Mexico World Cup. Interesting news and good news for Laporte, a fellow that I like talking to and I think has been an underrated part of Spain's success recently. The final little sentimental note is that Kylian Rodriguez, although he needs 5 years from now to say I'm completely cancer clear, he is cancer free sufficiently that he's been given the permission to go back to training and playing at Las Palmas. This is a man who's suffered a couple of times before from the threat of cancer, who's had to stop playing, and who admits that if this happens again, he will give up on his career. He admits also that he was so low recently that even as soon as recently as earlier this week, he had no hunger to be back. He was focusing completely on trying to beat cancer. The doctors say that he's clear to return to train and play. Las Palmas desperately need him. But before or without even looking at the football impact, just think if it were you or somebody close to you when that person is suddenly free to do the thing they're best at because hospital treatment and drugs and their own personal physique and their body fighting back has given them the all clear from something that can kill you. Kyrian 1, Hodgkinson's 0. The last 2 points would be the referees had their mea culpa session, which apparently they're going to do quite often, and the refereeing committee admitted that there was a big mistake, an offside that was missed by the refereeing team and automatic offside when Giuliano Simeone scored in Atleti's last game. They also said that there was a mistake made by Montero, the referee, who's been suspended since, when the Lamine Yamal shot was headed out by Rayo of Mallorca. He went down, the referee didn't stop play, Ferran Torres scored. It's quite clear that was judged to be a complete error. The referees were cleared and supported in the case of the penalty given against Alex Balde and the goal denied for an inadvertent handball by Arda Güler for Real Madrid. So there were all kinds of things to come out of that. Here's our list of well done and smack on the wrist. We'll come back to that at a later date. And one small piece of optimistic news for those who admire Spanish football. Barcelona's first team right now, which won the Super Cup and the Cup and the League and very nearly made the Champions League final last season, is populated by people like Fermin and Gavi and Pedri and Lamine Yamal and Cubarsí and Bernal and Casado, Balde, etc., 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 on and on and on, all of whom have come through the academy system. Now, Flick has added on Pedro Fernandez, Guille Fernandez, Tony Fernandez, and Jofre Torrents at left back. They are now integrated elements of the first team squad and all very good. At a time when last season, the youth team at Barcelona under Giuliano Belletti won the UEFA Youth League, which is the equivalent of the Champions League, and came second in the Intercontinental Cup in the Maracanã against, I think it was Flamengo, the 2-2 in Flamengo's home stadium, 2-2, and then they lost 6-5 on penalties. So an amazing high watermark there for a team which doesn't have so many of the kids that could have been playing for them because they've already been moved under advanced speed into Hansi Flick's squad. And now they've just won the World Club Championship, played down in Cordoba in Andalusia, beating Racing de Avellaneda, an Argentinian team, although they were pronounced Aficionada, and Barcelona won 1-0 in what is an under-18 World Club Cup title. They're world champions now, even though that conveyor belt keeps churning out footballers who are good for other clubs at a very young age, like Virgili, who's gone to Mallorca. But Barcelona's first team squad is absolutely jam-packed with La Masia talent, and yet they're capable of winning the UEFA Youth League, finishing second in the Intercontinental Cup in Brazil, and beating the Argentinian rivals to win the World Club Cup yesterday on a 1-0 goal scored by a Ukrainian recruit, because yes, now they recruit from far and wide. It's testimony to the skills of Giuliano Belletti and Cesc Bosch, the two coaches who've managed this, but it's testimony to an unbelievable conveyor belt of talent where they scout, train, teach, and then promote in ways that most other clubs don't seem either interested in or capable of doing. At the moment, it's a golden age. From my point of view here, this is for subscribers everywhere. This is a taste of what you get if you're a socio. What I'd ask you to do is join now. It's 36 quid for an entire season from now all the way through until after the World Cup, a World Cup which I hope is won by Spain, featuring Aymeric Laporte, Dani Carvajal and Rodrigo. It's a one-off payment. I think it rounds up about something in the region of 65, 70 pence per day. And you keep us on the road, you keep us doing this, and you keep other socios happy because they get this content too. Change your status from subscriber to socio. Join us, support us. You'll never notice the outlay, but we'll try to make your football life better every week, several times every week. Stay tuned.